Sideline Squib. It's a long time coming. Steve, Andrew, what say you? This is the sideline, yeah. Funny, it's my time then. Put me in right now then. Squib, 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 boy. This is the sideline, Funny, it's my time then. Yeah. Put me in right now then. Squib, 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 boy. This is the squib, info stick up to your ribs. Chips be coming with that dip. Go ahead, put it to your lips. My oh my, that is delish. Victory gon' taste like this. Y'all bought that big old boat, but these boys built you a bridge. Sit down and take notes. If you want you a trophy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sideline Squib. We have special guest today, Tim Peffer from the Dynasty Owner and DynastyOwner.com. Also with co-host Andrew Lee. Hi, Andrew. How are you today?
Doing good. We're doing this a little earlier in the afternoon, so I've been up for like 3 hours at this point, so it's still my morning. So take that into consideration as we roll along. So trying to get going here.
Oh yeah, and I hear the little one. Somewhere in the household. But Tim, we are ecstatic to have you on today. Tell everyone a little bit about what you do and this platform that you created before we jump into any kind of football news.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for having me. So Dynasty Owner, we feel, is the place to come and play against the best fantasy football competition, especially Dynasty. That's what we are, a Dynasty format. We use actual player contracts and salaries with a salary cap. And so we feel like we have the best and smartest people that have been playing fantasy football for a long time competing against each other. And so we have cash prizes, a bunch of different seasonal prizes, and chase for the ring. And so yeah, it's a fun platform.
Well, I absolutely love it. I know I'm one who I'm super excited to actually dive in and get into a league, because that's what I went to school for. I went to school for sports management and business administration. And when I got out, I've worked at Heinz Field, I've worked at PNC Park, I've jumped into different things. And, I ultimately got out of that industry. But yep. This platform and Dynasty Owner is something that scratches that itch for me that I haven't had in years. And I'm super excited to actually get in, and you have a little surprise for us later on to kind of show people what it's like once you get past that mock draft stage. So
exactly. Yep.
Well, before we get into that, obviously we have a few words from the Dynasty Owner themselves. Tim, you're the best at this. You kind of just said it yourself, but the Dynasty Owner is a platform like no other. I mean, it is absolutely taken the next step in fantasy football and everything that happens. So what's something, before we get into the actual read here, what's something that made you take the step into creating Dynasty Owner, or you and your team?
So for Paul, when he's asked this story, Paul's the one that created the game, and I'm Paul's partner in Dynasty Owner. And so I'm the one that works through development and each piece, just creating the game, each detail. And so Paul, people were like, why don't you play fantasy football? And he was actually almost bought a piece of the Miami Heat back before LeBron went to Miami and left Cleveland and went to Miami. And so they were like, hey, why don't you play fantasy sports? He's like, listen, because it's not really realistic. Now, granted, I played fantasy football for 20 years. I love it. So even redraft leagues I love. But Paul, he's just not really into like redraft leagues and doesn't think it's, dropping and adding players is realistic, and doesn't give you that realistic feel to what owners and GMs actually face and the decisions they actually face. And so, he was like, somebody's like, he kind of explained like, some of those nuances, and like somebody's like, you should create a game like that. He's like, okay, I will. And so that's what he did.
That's awesome. I think you guys nailed it on the head, and I'm looking forward to see kind of where it takes you guys, because it's like no other platform out there, at least right now. I think you guys are definitely the first ones to do it. And much like myself and yourself and everyone else who kind of listens, that's another. It's not just a different league setting. It's not a best ball or dynasty redraft, however you want to call it. This is a whole new. I mean, this is you're the front office, you're the GM, you're the coach, you're everything. I mean, you have to look 5 years in advance in minimum, just based off of their salaries, and do a lot more things. So
yeah, we have no customizations on our platform. That's what I get that question from time to time, like people wanting to bring their league over, and I'm like, bring your league over, but you're going to need to restart. Like if you've been doing a salary cap league of some format with some kind of salaries that are based off of performance or some kind of trivial system, it's just not going to work with our platform. So I'm like, come over. There's no customization, and you're going to need to do a startup draft, which is a lot of fun. Everybody loves the draft, right? So. Nothing wrong with that.
That's the best part.
Yep.
No, and you heard it there. It sounds like it's the best fantasy football platform as it is, and why not? The best fantasy football leagues are those where every owner consistently pays attention, responds to trade offers, changes their lineup, and are always looking to improve their team. There is no off season for these owners. That's who you're challenging yourself against in Dynasty Owner. Other elite fantasy football players who are committed to competing. Dynasty Owner is the only fantasy football platform with a patented game using actual NFL salaries and contracts. Combine this with salary cap, elite trading options, advanced team rosters, and devoted elite owners to compete against, and you're faced with the same decisions NFL owners and general managers must make on a daily basis. That is crazy. So if you guys haven't yet, I mean, we talk about it all the time. You see it on many podcasts, and it's starting to get out there probably faster than you ever thought, Tim. Swing over to www.dynastyowner.com or check out their mobile app on both iOS and Android, which came out this past May, and be the GM in a dynasty, of a Dynasty Owner team yourself. And recently news, you even brought in that introductory price of owners who want to join Dynasty Owner, but not play for cash prizes. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, at first we were charging $99, and we were giving some people some prize options. But at that point in time, we weren't able to do cash prizes. And then we just kept pushing through some of the red tape, and was able to flip it on its head. So it's $29 for a season. You can play just for the love of the game, but then also now we have team stake involved. And so if you want to compete for cash prize pools, we have a $600 and $1,200 cash prize pool option. So, you can deposit 50 or 100 respectively if you want to join those leagues, and there's no side rake at all. All of it comes back to the winners of the league, the teams that make the playoffs. So,
and having that extra, the money in the game, it's already a league or a platform that the most elite fantasy football players are going to be playing in anyway. Yep. And now adding the prize value of cash back. I mean, that's what most fantasy football players do anyway. Exactly. They want some sort of hand or money in it anyway. And it's awesome. Is there any sort of, outside of Chase for the Ring, is that sort of the same, parallel to the cash prize leagues? Is there any sort of trophies or anything?
So, obviously, each and every league will have some prizes that happen, and everyone can go connect with dynastyowner.com. You can go look at it, how it works. So go click the How It Works tab. You can download the Constitution. Then we also have a fact page, answer every question that people have. But there's some prizes for each and every league. And then the big ultimate prize is that everybody, no matter if you choose Love of the Game or if you choose a cash prize pool, everybody is competing for the Chase for the Ring. Paul wanted people to feel, and we actually have a Super Bowl prize winner too. We sent a guy to the Super Bowl. We sent a guy was in our beta season named Bruno. We sent him to the Super Bowl last year. And then we just had actually Eddie, who was our champion. From not only did he win his league last year, but he stayed undefeated. And so we have Chase for the Ring. As long as you won your league, whoever has the most points that won their league, and best record overall gets a ring. And so Eddie came in this week, and we took him to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and this ring is about $10,000 almost. And so it's and here's one that I have as well. We gave him and presented his ring, and it's real diamonds. It's really, really heavy. I wish you guys could feel how heavy this is, but It weighs about 125 grams. So that was about the weight of the last Patriot Super Bowl ring. So so we're having real stakes, and we bring in the best of the best each and every year. We're going to bring them to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, come tour Cleveland a little bit for the day, and present them for the ring. So,
wow, you want to talk about prizes, Andrew? What are your thoughts on those giveaways?
Listen, I'm a big trophy smack guy. Like I like our trophy smack, like our championship belt option, but trophy smack, man, that's a $10,000 ring, man. That's a big deal right there. I actually saw that video with Eddie Driscoll. He went 16-0 and all that, and you guys are kind of it was the recording of after you guys had already taken him to the Hall of Fame, but he seemed to be like he didn't really know what he was doing at first, which is kind of funny. At the end of the day, like he knew like football, he understands contracts and stuff, but he didn't really understand who would? It's a brand new format, so he didn't really know like if he was even like he didn't even know if he was going to have a good team or not. Essentially from the beginning. So to go undefeated and kind of just shows that if you get committed to something and you can turn around and have a $10,000 ring and go to the Hall of Fame. So no, it's a pretty cool deal for Eddie and for everyone that was involved in that beta season. So looks like sky is the limit essentially here with Dynasty Owner. So It's exciting, man.
Yep. And I'm excited for you guys to play this.
Where do you get a $10,000 ring from, by the way? Where'd you go to get that?
So we went to a local.
How did you have it made?
Yeah, so we went to a local jeweler in Cleveland, and we actually first we had somebody design it. We found someone on the internet that designs rings. They designed it for us, and then we were able to take it to a local jeweler to build it. So
uncut gems right there.
Dang.
No,
uncut gems, really.
Yeah, I just watched that the other day. But as players are starting to ramp up and get back into structured practices, where do you guys feel is the best place for rookies to get accustomed with their new teams? Which rookies do you feel is going to benefit the most as far as position wise? Andrew?
Like actual rookies?
Yeah.
Rookies
so now that no, just in NFL in general right now, before we jump into some other things here, what do you guys feel now that practices are starting to open up? A few weeks ago it was 75 personnel. Now they're starting opening up more and more, and rookies can finally get in and work with their quarterbacks, or wide receivers can work with their quarterbacks, or vice versa. Running backs can start to learn the plays and watch film and get to know the facilities and everything that comes with being a rookie in the NFL. Is there any specific position or player that you guys think would be benefited the most by this?
I think the easiest probably transition would be for the wide receiver than it would be for any other position, just because of the overall kind of overhaul in college football, at least from the bigger schools, where it's more of a pro system. Like more and more teams are employing a pro system, a pro style offense with high volume passing and quick passing and those kind of things and schemes. And not to mention, like, it's a little easier to get together with your quarterback one-on-one and try to run some routes like at the local park. Like those things are easier than it is to get the offensive line together and the running back and the quarterback and work on, zone blocking schemes or pulling and things like that, and reading defenders and those kind of things. So I think it's just easier for wide receivers in this very specific scenario of limited practice time that they might have been able to work on, one-on-one drills versus running backs who would have to pick up blitz packages and things like that. So they're all at a disadvantage. I think we're going to be very underwhelmed with what the 2020 class, based on their talent, what their actual fantasy production is, at least early on in the season, and maybe even through the middle part of the season, just based on the limited access they've had to the team. You can have a playbook all you want. You can sit there and study it all you want. Reps are reps, man. Mental reps are very, very important. But until you get in there and you see it live, it's a very difficult thing to do.
So, Tim, being from Cleveland, are you excited about Donovan Peoples-Jones? I know we were pretty high on him. Andrew was very high on him. Coming in to an offense that is a fantasy team by itself.
Yeah.
Assuming you are a Cleveland Browns fan.
1,000%.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on him coming into an offense like that and pretty much stepping in right next to Jarvis Landry and OBJ?
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. And we re-signed Higgins, and obviously tight end is deep too. So, Baker has got a lot of people to throw to. Now it's just a matter of, can the O-line block? The Browns addressed it a little bit. And can Baker have success and turn it around in Stefanski's offense? I don't know. I want it to work out. I'm a Browns fan.
Yeah.
I want us to win every week and make the playoffs. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about his talent. And like I said, there's a lot of depth at wide receiver, I think, for the Browns now with having Donovan, having Landry, having OBJ and Higgins. So
yeah, he's set up for success. Hopefully Stefanski can come in and kind of keep Baker in the pocket a little bit. I think he tends to rush things a little bit or make poor decisions the more he gets outside of the pocket. I mean, the difference between him inside the pocket and finding the receiver rather than having to force plays. And I know that's the natural to roll out to your right, but he has so much talent around him. I mean, you're talking now a full season from Kareem Hunt as well, which I'm a huge Nick Chubb fan. And I mean, Kareem Hunt's still 26 years old. So, Cleveland is literally a fantasy team in itself. And I'm still buying Cleveland players as it is. So talking about,
it's just to hone in on who's going to be the alpha there.
Yeah.
Everybody would expect Odell Beckham, at least going into last year, and then he kind of faded. You obviously have Jarvis Landry, who's a monster and continues to be underappreciated everywhere he goes, both in real life and in fantasy football. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, two very, the range of outcomes for both of them is so severe. From a week to week basis, it could be a Kareem Hunt show if they fall behind. It could be a Nick Chubb show if they're early on in the game, they jump out to a lead or it's close, they can just continue to pound the rock. It's gonna be really tough. And then the tight end situation is just a disaster. I think the one thing, I've talked about several different times at this point, and when we're on the open bar pod and things like that, Baker Mayfield is continuously being slept on, but because of one subpar season from a fantasy standpoint, he has way too many weapons for him not to have a high floor every single week. As long as he stays healthy, the offensive line's been addressed. Yep. They have all the weapons. I just think it's too easy to smash on Baker Mayfield, and he's an easy target. I understand that he's an easy target to ridicule and pick apart because he's kind of an arrogant asshole. But that's fine by me. I don't care. I'll buy him at a discount price. That's fine by me.
And just to be clear,
Aaron Rodgers is an asshole too. So
yeah, and
worked out fine for him.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, he is a leader. He's still doing great things. And when you say disaster at tight end, you mean disaster in such a good way. I mean, this is Njoku's.
Yeah,
this is his. This is supposed
disaster
to be,
and figure out who is going to be.
Yeah, this is supposed to be his breakout year, and then they added Austin Hooper on top of that. So, they're loaded. Yeah. I mean, if they can somehow keep that offensive line tight and keep Baker on his feet, they have the tools. They have the tools to compete, especially in that division. I mean, it's literally them in Baltimore. I mean, Cincinnati's coming up. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I still have no faith in Big Ben at all. But yeah. So
the Big Ben slander on our show is so bad.
Oh, we'll see.
We are not nice. I'm sorry to all Pittsburgh fans. I love Juju, man, but that's about as far as it gets for me.
See, I
can't do it. I can't even fake it.
I would rather Mason Rudolph, develop into a quarterback. I get it; he's not their future, but
I would rather them address the elephant in the room that they have a 38-year-old quarterback who's come off elbow surgery and they did nothing in the offseason to address it.
Came crawling Newton, out of the cabin.
Regardless of whatever you're saying about him, it's still out there. Cam Newton's still out there.
Exactly.
You could at least bring him in. I don't know. Have a plan. I don't know. Just a plan would be cool. To roll out 38-year-old.
Yeah.
38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger is just a joke to me.
So
personally.
this
Not that I have an opinion.
Yeah. So having Tim on, we want to jump into Dynasty Owner, and what a perfect way to kind of segue into what you guys can see here, and a way to win this $10,000 ring and compete against the most elite out there. There are 16 running backs this year that are on the final year of their contract. 16. That's half of the league. Only 3 of them are running back by committee, per se. You know, you're talking Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kenyon Drake, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Damian Williams, Kareem Hunt, Marlon Mack, Chris Carson, to say the least, plus Tariq Cohen, Jamal Williams, Matt Breida. These guys are all top-tier talent when it comes to fantasy football and Dynasty. And I know a few of us are curious what's going to happen with Dalvin Cook.
Basically the first 3 rounds of running backs taken in the draft.
I mean, what's going to happen?
I mean, outside of Bar.
Yeah. What's going to happen with Dalvin Cook? I think he's shooting his shot, to say the least. I with the new CBA, him holding out is, he'll become a restricted free agent rather than an unrestricted free agent, which does a lot for a player. He's not in that Lev Bell type of contract or leverage where if he doesn't play, he can walk the next season. I mean, he's still going to be back. He's asking for something close to $16 million. I think he reportedly came out and said he'd be happy with 13. The Vikings offered him 10. Take the 10. You have injury concerns. You have, the doubted, and you're not forgetting the love for Alexander Madison, at least coming from my screen, is through the roof. So, I mean, if he holds out at all, you don't think that they're going to
Mike Boone, bro.
Yeah, even Mike Boone too. You don't think that the two of them can carry that offense with Kirk Cousins there? I mean, man, it's at, but man, all right. So nonetheless,
I just think you can. Well, he can only accrue his 4th season by not missing training camp. It's the only way he gets to accrue the 4th season. And in order to become a free agent, he has to accrue the 4th season thanks to the new CBA. This is the whole workaround of the holdout situation. He has, I mean, they have the money to pay like top 5 running back money, but like if they're not going to pay Stephon Diggs, why are they going to pay Dalvin Cook when they have 2 very capable running backs right behind him? Makes no sense.
Yeah, so the question that we have for you, Tim, is how does this affect, and you can kind of take this into your Dynasty Owner platform here and screen share, but how does this affect how someone would draft in the Dynasty Owner, knowing that he's on this contract or he could potentially get this contract extension before the season starts? And how does that fluctuate during season if said contract is, agreed upon?
So I think it just depends on how high he goes, but I'll give you guys an example. CMC right now, Christian McCaffrey, he is pretty much our number 1 running back taken off the board. He has an ADP of about 4 right now, and I'll explain that in a little bit. That's because quarterback contracts go real heavy in our first round of the draft. But he's got his contract kicking in next year, Christian McCaffrey. So even though he had 2 years left on his contract, the way it works in our game is if somebody gets extended or if they have a year left on contract, the following season that new contract kicks in, unless they just rip up the deal, which ended up happening last year with the Colts quarterback. They ended up just ripping up his deal after Andrew Luck retired, and it wasn't an extension; it was a contract replacement. So, Christian McCaffrey is making $4 million this year, and then his contract's going up. Dalvin Cook and really Kamara are in the same place. Joe Mixon as well, Aaron Jones. There's a slew of them. Those guys are going in the first round first round. Aaron Jones more likely second round. Joe Mixon usually is going about second round. So, it's just a matter of that contract's going up. Dalvin Cook's at 1.5 right now. I think the scarier thought is he holding out? Is he going to hold out and do what Zeke did last year? Or is he going to, and Melvin Gordon did, and are you going to lose some of that production? Because if that's the case, then he might be going second round and not first round or third round. We'll see where it goes. But if you're doing your startup draft right now, of course you're gonna weigh that into your thinking. Am I okay with Cook at 1.5 million, knowing that his contract's going up next year? It's a dynasty, so you got that first right of refusal in our league. To take him with his new contract or to cut him with no cap penalty charge at the end of the season, at the end of this contract. So it's just but you're not really going to draft a guy in the first round. Like if you're taking Christian McCaffrey or Kamara or Cook, who's on the last year of their contract, their contract, it's going up. It's going to be, those guys are all pretty cheap right now, in our game when we have $110 million salary cap. You just know, like, all right, I'm gonna make sure that I have enough cap room if I really care about keeping him, because you're not gonna draft a guy in the first round this year and then just waive him at the end of the season. That's not going to happen. Now maybe you try to trade him. It gets it
right. You would just
you're not going to do that. Like nobody wants to do that in any dynasty league. You're doing a startup draft. I'm going to plan on cutting my first round pick next year. No way. That's too valuable a pick. So what you generally see is like Christian McCaffrey is usually the number one running back still off our board, Barkley number 2, and then usually Kamara is still steady at 3, but I'll see Nick Chubb a lot of times go ahead of Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon and like those guys, for example. And you're seeing a lot of the guys that still have 3-4 years left on their contract, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is usually sometimes even going the end of the first round. You'll see Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders going first round. Those guys go and sometimes will go ahead of Mixon and Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as far as, Cook. Does he slide? Because obviously you don't want to lose that production this year, but
yeah, and I can see the Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders deal because they're productive as it is now.
This only puts the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and I see Zeke usually going. Zeke's one of our most expensive running backs right now, $15 million. He's usually going mid-second round. Sometimes the beginning of the second round because people still love what he can do and what he can produce, but he slides a little bit. So, I almost, in my mind, have to treat Dalvin Cook the same way.
Quite a bit of money, yeah.
And just say, I'm going to pass on him in the first round, even if he, no matter what happens, because you just know the contract's going up.
Yeah, so for the people who are just joining us now and heard
that, and the fact that he has
joining us now and heard that Zeke's going in the second round, guys, we are talking Dynasty Owner right now, the newest platform out there that deals with actual NFL contracts and salaries. If you haven't checked it out yet, swing over to dynastyowner.com. They have mock drafts up there for free, and if you hang out for a little bit, you'll even get to see Tim show you what it looks like once you're into the league as well. So, Tim, if you want to start to get that up here, we can dive into a few questions I know a lot of people have on what does Dynasty Owner look like after the mock draft on the platform, or at least on the desktop site right now, as you can use this platform on any mobile device. They have iOS, they have Android, you can use any tablet, anything that has a screen, you can use it. So,
and one thing you guys will be surprised about is Michael Thomas can sometimes is going second round. It just depends. Just depends on how I'm drafting with. When I'm drafting with veteran people that have played Dynasty Owner like last season, they will typically draft Michael Thomas second round. Now, can you guys see my screen okay?
Andy, you want to pull that up?
I'm about to pull it up right here.
So anyways, this is what it looks like after you've drafted a team. Obviously, this is the desktop version. So this was one of my testing teams last year. So obviously there's no matchups in here right now, but you could see, here's Pat Mahomes and here's his contract. 4 years, $16 million. He's got, 1 year left, and we know that's going to be a big contract. So 2021, that's going to be big. So
Worth it.
yep. Nick
Yeah.
Chubb, here's a guy I love. 2022. So you got him locked up for a couple more years at 1.8 million. And so those are the things you take in consideration. So this is just the dashboard of the game. You can see here's what our standings looks like. One of our stats is like dynasty dollars per point. What's the cost of point, per a player? And you could see like, Pat Mahomes was a cheaper guy to have last year. When you go and you look at, what was his cost per point. And so front office, this is a place you're going to come and evaluate your team and look at your team's cap structure. And you're going to say, okay, I got, Pat Mahomes, and then he's going to be expiring contract. I got Dwayne Haskins. Okay. I got him locked up through 2023. And so you can go and look, and this is how you'd research your opponents too, and look at their cap situation. You could say, okay, here's what this guy's cap situation is. And he looks like he has room, in 2022, 2023. And can he take on some of my cap? So yeah.
So it looks like there is tons of in-depth information once you're in here to kind of help build your team and use your roster to not only project this year or the following year, but the next 5 years of someone's contract. With $110 million cap space per team.
Yep.
How close or what are you seeing consistently? Are people spending that cap, or are they saving a good chunk of it for following years, knowing that they have a solid young core that are going to be expensive in years to come?
So I see a lot of new users coming into mock draft and using every bit of it. And I think on our platform, mock drafting is more important than any other platform. I know like if you're doing dynasty preparation, normal dynasty preparation, you might really feel comfortable with who you really like, and you might not do so many mock drafts, especially if you're doing redraft, you might not care. But when it comes to Dynasty Owner, first of all, you want to get used to a new way to play. It's going to mess you up. When you look at it and you're like, Michael Thomas is 18 million, Amari Cooper is 20 million, and I have 110 million cap. It's like, no thanks. Like Aaron Rodgers is like gets drafted about round 16, and that's because he's really, really expensive. And so everything's kind of flipped on its head. I think mock draft is really important, and I see people spending every bit of it. I suggest you don't go above 90.
Okay.
And that's what I tell folks, because I played the game last year, and I think not only do you need to leave cap space for your rookies for next year, and I think you need to leave about 10 million for your, and if you would have had the first pick in the draft, Joe Burrow himself is going to cost you almost 10 million. And so, I could see somebody in the future having the first pick and not be able to draft Joe Burrow, because you cannot go, we don't let you go over the cap at any time. So, or if you have that first pick and you don't have the cap space for, Joe Burrow, you might need to, trade out of that slot or make some cap room, to get him. So I suggest 90. So that way you have room for this year in case you're going to make a run this year, and you have room to take on some extra, through a trade that you have room to take on some salaries, and then you have room in the next season.
Now, are there different league settings, I guess, for the Dynasty Owner, or is it a standard setup for every league, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or do you have different options for people to join?
So here is our league constitution, and there is no customization on our platform at all. So our roster is 30.
Perfect.
And we have a minimum of 25. So when you do your inaugural draft, you're drafting 25. You'll have 5 spots that you can add later through the free agent auction. The 8 starters are made up of a quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, a tight end, a flex, and a kicker. So we decided to get rid of defense. We kept kickers. I know a lot of people don't play with kickers anymore. I don't love the kickers either, but
in this sort of setup, it could add value to something that could get your team asset valuable points on a contract of a kicker. So I think, defense, I agree with. There's so many how do you use contracts of a defense in this scenario?
There was a couple of ways that we would have done it to determine team defense. Had we done team defense, we could have done it by position and the cost and breakdown and overall. What we really were going to do was IDP, but so that's easier to determine. But we used our beta group last year to just really help us refine things. Not only did they test the game as we developed it, but they helped us kind of come up with some things that when we were on the fence about it, they were able to help us, determine what was going to be the best solution. We had people split between IDP, team defense, and I think it was probably about 50% was split between IDP and team defense. The other 50% said no defense. So we said, you know what? No defense. Let's just do it. So
I think the kicker thing is a huge value. I mean, you talk about Justin Tucker, who's obviously the best kicker in football. I don't know if it's really even an argument, but he's best kicker in football, and he's paid. He just signed a $20 million extension, and then you have like Harrison Butker, who is on one of the highest scoring offenses, is going to continue to score points every week. Could potentially be a Justin Tucker, as long as he continues to do and his arrow continues to move in that direction. Yeah. And he's making like $2 million a year. So like that's like free points almost, when it's all said and done. Like you said, like the cost, I think that's a really cool feature that you help people with that it shows like the cost per dollar, and like what it costs. The points per dollar or whatever, basically. Yeah. So it shows you, this person, costs $20 million and this is how many points they're providing. This is what it equates to. I mean, anybody could do that math, right? But like to make it easy and kind of like streamline for people to see, especially in a new format like that is really, and I think it's really, really helpful, especially. And I think you nailed the head whenever you're talking about mock drafting in situations like this. Like no one would expect Michael Thomas to go in the second round or Zeke to go in the second round or, those kind of things. So,
if you don't mock
I think
draft,
it's very, very important, like you said, to give you some trial runs.
Yeah, if you don't mock draft, I think you could get lost. One, you just want to know how things work on the platform, and then secondly, to get used to the salaries and to be able to try a few different strategies and from different positions, across the board, because your spot's going to be randomized. You don't get to choose it, so. You need to have a couple of strategies, and then we have bench, total bench, and we have practice squad, and the bench doesn't work like your traditional bench in fantasy football. We give you 20% of your bench, and it's kind of like almost slotted like a second starting lineup where you have to have a quarterback. Actually, you don't have to, but if you choose to put players in the bench. Quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a kicker. And it almost works like a super flex in a sense, because I've seen wins and losses determined off of the bench points, and that's how we want to award the best team.
Yeah, it almost sounds like with the bench and the 20% juice, I guess, if you want to call it, or whatever the terminology is for it. Yeah. You're right. It almost it plays into almost kind of how I draft Dynasty now, where I don't draft a team in a startup to fill my roster. I'm drafting to take the best talent that's on the board at my given spot, within the tiers that I have set. If you're talking about a wide receiver 3 or a running back 2 and I have one of them vacated in my starting roster, I may not fill my roster first and yet add that depth and that value to my bench, which in this format is only benefiting that as well. Yep. As for your practice squad, how is that treated? Is that treated something like a taxi squad? Is it 1 year eligibility, rookies only, or how does that play into a factor of strategizing for the Dynasty Owner leagues?
So, we've played in I've played in a lot of different leagues, and I've enjoyed some of them with a lot of the archaic rules and things of that nature. We wanted simplicity. One thing that's great about our platform is there are a lot of new people to dynasties coming to our platform, never even played a dynasty, and it's because they didn't have 11 friends, or 9 other friends to fill a 10-team or 12-team league. And so, and we actually have a lot of people coming from Europe to come play as well, especially there, they didn't have enough friends to fill a league. And so we let you pick your league, and you'll be placed with the best people from all around the country and world. And obviously you can invite your friends too. So one of the archaic, and I don't think it's a terrible thing to have rules of like only 1 year eligibility and things of that nature. But to answer your question about the practice squad, you can fill it with any combination of player positions. Doesn't matter if they're a veteran, if they're rookie, minimum of 10, maximum of 15. If you want to put Cam Newton in your practice squad, and hold him for the future, by all means,
And those points don't accumulate to a percentage score as like the bench will. If you if your bench scores 100 points, you essentially will get 20 points added to your starting roster, which is to answer the question in the live chat there. Yes, you do get 20% of your bench points added towards your weekly score. Whereas Tim mentioned, he has seen many, wins and losses come from the production or that 20% bench boost towards a winning roster.
I think I could show you guys what that looked like with a full schedule last year. Let me see here if I can show you one.
Well, while Tim's pulling that up, everybody, if you want a $10,000 beautiful ring, trip to the Super Bowl, Hall of Fame, make sure to swing out and check out dynastyowner.com. But like always, you'll hear it at the top of our podcast version. I'd like to thank trophysmack.com for their generosity. And if you're looking for a trophy for your fantasy football league, swing over to trophysmack.com, use code SQUIB, SQUIB, and get yourself a free championship ring, a $60 value that you could use to for another league you're in or for yourself. So back to Tim, and he's going to show us a little bit about our
So now obviously the flex is blank because last season we didn't have a flex. That's something we added for this year, and so we added the flex, and you can see that this is how it ended up filling out for me, and this team right here. This was a testing league with me and some of the other guys. I didn't win. I ended up, finishing second. But here, I had 26 points, just from the bench over here. He had 11. He obviously had the better starting lineup that day, getting 45 from Saquon Barkley. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it where it's made a difference, where there was one game where I won by, I think, 0.3 of a point, and the guy had more starting points or more points in a starting lineup. I had more points in the bench, and then it adds up down here. And then we give a thing called a coach's bonus, which is so rare. You can see nobody got it, 0. It's a bonus of 3. And that is if you pick basically the perfect starting lineup, and you can go read more in the Constitution on what that is. But if you pick the perfect starting lineup, we give you a bonus.
So you're talking perfect as in optimized best lineup, or
optimized. So your best quarterback, running back, wide receivers, tight end, flex, kicker in the starting lineup. They have to outscore your bench and practice squad. Yeah. So wow. I've only seen a few people get it. That's a hard one.
Yeah, but still, it adds. It's more or less like a dynasty league adding 40-yard touchdown bonus or something. One of those weird dynasty league add-ons that puts it towards the dynasty owner in general, because you are a coach, you are the GM, you are everything, you're the front office of this league. So I know I look forward to it. I believe my email just came through a couple of days ago, so I'm looking to jump in and finally get in and mess around in an actual league other than just mock drafts. Because like I said, this scratches my itch. This is what I look forward to, and I'm super excited to get out there and meet all the other elite players that are in the Dynasty Owner leagues right now.
Cool.
So Andrew,
how do they join up? How do you get into one of these leagues? Like, just go to dynastyowner.com and click the sign up button, or how does this work?
Yeah. Go to dynastyowner.com, and you'll see a Start My Dynasty button. And if you want to get on the wait list, then go ahead and give out your name and email, and then what we'll do is we'll add you to the wait list and give you an invite when spots open up.
Awesome. Pretty simple process to get into the Dynasty Owner League, and you don't want to miss out on anything like this. Andrew, do you have any more questions for Tim?
No, I mean, I'm super excited for this format. I have to kind of curb how many new leagues I've been getting into this year. So I've well over budget when it comes to that. So, but nonetheless, I still am excited to try a new platform and kind of a new strategy, especially when it comes to more difficulty. I just think it eventually that's why you kind of gravitate to new. I mean, everybody starts in redraft. People go to Dynasty, then they go to Superflex, and they get rid of kickers, they get rid of defenses. And, there's all sorts of different ways to try to make it more difficult. And most of the times, it's affecting the scoring. Isn't how you do that. So for this, it's definitely more of a.
So what I'd love to do for you
just
guys,
a more realistic one. Yeah.
So what I'd love to do with you guys is get you guys into a podcast league with other guys like Dynasty Nerds, Dynasty Rewind. Christopher Harris is playing our game this year. So get you in with some of the other people.
Speaking of Dynasty Nerds,
some of the
Jared Waggerly.
Get you in some with some of the other podcasters and let you guys all play together, which I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'd love that. We can talk off air on how to go about that, signing in and whatnot. I guess going on, I was going to cut us off here, but Andrew brought up a good point, and I want to ask you, for people that are on the fence right now with Dynasty Owner, they love the idea, they want to get in, they think this is the next level. But for guys, some people may, like Andrew said, cap themselves out at a price value or a league value. Is there negative, I guess, value in signing up to join on the waiting list, getting that invite, and then not doing it right away? They want to see how the first year goes. They want to, they already committed to these, say, 10 leagues, but they plan on cutting 5 so they can join Dynasty Owner next year. Kind of what's the steps in that for the people that are really on the fence of wanting to join Dynasty Owner, but can't or are unwilling, I guess, to commit $100, knowing that they already committed so much to their other home leagues until they can back out of them or find other owners to take over their orphan.
Well, and that's why we have the option where you can just come and play for $29. Obviously, there's not a cash prize pool for $29, but we make it pretty cheap. If you just kind of want to dip your toe in and see what it's like, obviously, if there's anybody that plays a full season and they absolutely hate it, we'll give you your money back. I mean, that's something that Paul and I talked about. So, there's no risk in that. Come and check it out. If it's not, if you don't think it was worth $29 at the end of the season, then email me. We'll take care of you. But but you know what? I mean, we know that people are going to enjoy it. It's not for everybody. First of all, it's not for somebody with a redraft mindset. And obviously you can play everything. You could play in a redraft league, in a dynasty league, a keeper league, a guillotine league. They're all fun. But if your mindset is not open to the dynasty format first and foremost, then our game wouldn't be suitable for you, And then if you're not very active in leagues,
I think it emphasizes.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I think it emphasizes even more so. Like Dynasty is already we're on a bit of a delay, but I do think that Dynasty football in comparison to redraft obviously is a more full year commitment, right? Like everything, there's rookie drafts and there's player news that always comes out, trades and things like that, right? So it already encapsulates that. But the added wrinkle is now the contract situations, similar to Dalvin Cook. Like you have to be in tune with, where teams are with their salary caps in real life, so that you can make those adjustments to your actual Dynasty Owner team. So I think it's like the next step of Dynasty. I know it's a very simplistic way of saying it, but it's like it's where you go to next. Like it's the only reasonable next step without overcomplicating things. And I think I saw you guys on an earlier episode on your own YouTube channel talking about how there was another similar system or platform that was like your guys's when you first launched yours or first came up with the idea, but it was so complex and so difficult to understand that you guys didn't even know what to do. And so kind of simplifying that to an extent makes it a little bit more accessible for even new people like us to try to kind of come in here and try our hand at a new wrinkle in Dynasty football. So it's exciting. We've been hammering it here on Sideline Squib. So we want to continue to do that. We're really thankful that you were able to come on here and kind of explain it in more detail, because we obviously don't know all the details like you do. So appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, go to dynastyowner.com, how it works. We try to explain it and a quick snapshot on, how the game works, the ins and outs. You can download the Constitution. And then, of course, we have a fact page as well that you can get your questions answered. And so we try to make it simple. We actually have 3 patents. We're not using the things in those 3 patents right now. At least 2 of them we're not using because we don't want things to get too complicated. Which is, the guaranteed money. And we have one of the patents with how guaranteed money and, bonuses and the player salary, fits into that complete breakdown, fits into a fantasy game. And that's one of our patents. But like I said, we're not even getting too complex with it. We almost feel like people need to play for a year or 2 before we get next level. So there's always going to be new. If you played our game last year in the beta and then now, you've seen how much the game has grown and how we're always adding things. And so people that are going to be early adopters this season, as we open it up to the public, they're not going to be disappointed come year 2, year 3. And if it feels like it's too complicated now, we honor you and we bless you and say it's okay. Come see us next year if it's too much for right now.
I mean, you don't even want to know that the gears turning in my head. I've had talks with guys from work and one of my good friends, Tim from the Dynasty Happy Hour.
Yeah.
I'm a big Excel sheet and Google Docs guy, and just imagine the formulas the formulas and the heat charts and everything you can make to try to figure out the best way to go about one of these drafts. And I know I'm super excited for it. As soon as we get off here, I'm going to go ahead and sign my ticket in and figure out what we can do to get that rolling. And I'm excited to see what the podcast league looks like. But we are getting around that hour mark. So Tim, go ahead. We'll put you on the big screen here and tell us everyone. I mean, we know where we can find your work, but where else can they find your work? Shout out your team, do things like, everything that you've done the hard work for. Take it away.
Yeah. Dynastyowner.com. Come try us out. That's what I say. $29. And, we really feel like you won't be disappointed. If you end up playing a whole season, like we said, and don't feel like it was a great experience, we'll refund your money. Now, obviously, you need to be active and set your lineup and do all, the things that you should do in any fantasy format. But that's our challenge to people. You can find us on Twitter at Dynasty_owner and come check out the game.
Awesome. Well, Tim, we are more than thankful to have you on. We'd love to have you on again, especially during season, to kind of go over what happens in season. But for now, it was great talk. And hopefully everyone out there listening or who will then listen to the replay, head over to dynastyowner.com. Check them out. There should be a bubble in there. Tell them that Sideline Squib sent you. And, you know what I mean? Get in the league. Try it out. There's nothing you can't find.
Absolutely.
Andrew, you can always find him at Do or Die Nasty, and the Periscope and Twitter live accounts will be on the Do or Die Nasty account. So make sure to see that on Twitter. Make sure down below you hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified when we do have any time changes in new guests that come on and whatnot. So we are very thankful. You can always find me on sidelinesquib.com. And last but not least, check out Andrew's page on Do or Die Nasty for our giveaway going on right now. It is a Keenan Allen signed mini helmet in the display case. There are many different ways to enter, still in plastic, ready to go.
I promise it's in here. You just can't really see it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to take it out of the plastic.
So swing over there and look for different ways to win yourself some signed memorabilia on us for being great listeners and bringing us the content and questions that we need and hopefully can answer for you guys. So, Andrew, I'll go ahead and let you take us out.
Oh, cool. No, yeah, you nailed it. We are running a contest. It is a pinned tweet at Do or Die Nasty. It gives you all the rules as far as how to enter. Summarizing that really quick is you click the subscribe button here on YouTube. You get 2 entries. You follow us or retweet Sideline Squib. You're going to get an entry. And if you subscribe onto either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're going to get 2 entries as well. So, it's running till the day after 4th of July. So you've got still time to kind of get yourselves some entries in there. I'm going to kind of tweak it a little bit as we move forward to give people that have already put entries in more opportunities to put more entries in. No money involved in any of this. It's literally a couple clicks of buttons. We're just trying to give back to some support that we've had early on. And hopefully, as long as this continues to go well, we will have more of these. So it's of no obligation of anyone to do it. But if you are interested in some free memorabilia, signed, all that jazz, then by all means, just click a couple buttons and we would appreciate it.
Yeah, stay tuned for sidelinesquib.com, dropping on June 25th. And I want to thank you guys all for listening to the Sideline Squib.
Sideline Squib. It's a long time coming. Steve, Andrew, what say you? This is the sideline, yeah. Funny, it's my time then. Put me in right now then. Squib, boy. This is the sideline, Funny, it's my time then. Yeah. Put me in right now then. Squib, boy. This is the Squib Info